Hi, it's Tom with Digital Foundry giving an early performance analysis of Just Cause 3. Avalanche Studios likes to kick things off in explosive style, and its latest open world action game is no exception. Huge draw distances, havoc destruction physics, and alpha effects work define what this series is going for. It's no surprise then that right off the bat you're thrown into a flyby sequence laying ruin to absolutely anything in sight. Now we're running on patch 1.01 on PS4 and Xbox One, a 2.7GB file you'll need to download on launch. In terms of visual comparisons, we can confirm Xbox One runs at a 1600 by 900 resolution, or 900p. Meanwhile, PS4 pushes out a full native 1080p image. On top of that, an initial pass of each game's visuals shows each running at matching settings for assets, effects and shadows. It's largely the same game underneath, but the differing resolutions gives PS4 the crisper image. However, as you can see in terms of frame rate, Just Cause 3 is quite a ways off from hitting its locked 30fps target, and that's a problem. So let's lay the facts bare. From the first few hours of testing the game, Xbox One is without a doubt the worst performer of the two in direct tests. We've set up each test as fairly as possible, using a mixture of gameplay and cutscenes, and the lowest drop on Xbox One is 20 frames per second, while PS4 reaches a minimum of 24. It's at its worst during heated firefights, combat scenes that it's fair to say make up most of the game's appeal. In between shootouts, it holds mostly at 30 frames per second, but once things really kick off, it's clear Microsoft's machine struggles to a greater extent.
A checkpoint.
All told, neither console is ideal in its frame rate delivery, but PS4's drops are more bearable. Surprisingly, the cause of these downward lurches varies. Of course, chaotic high-tempo gunplay with lots of transparency effects are a culprit for big drops on both machines. But even in areas with no action whatsoever, it's clear Xbox One also has a more general issue in handling the demands of the Avalanche engine. So check out this spot, a small woodland patch where just turning the camera causes Xbox One's performance to tumble to the mid-20s. PS4 by comparison gets off scot-free at a near perfect 30 frames per second. We suspect this is a texture streaming issue as the field of view changes rapidly to show different areas, a stress point for the system's RAM as the engine seeks the right assets. Being such a huge open sandbox, LODs are surprisingly solid on both consoles, but there's an obvious bottleneck here on Xbox One not seen on PS4. The third main cause of drops is simple. Avalanche Studios adopts a more procedural approach to physics destruction this time, meaning each chunk of exploded scenery operates individually to the next. In this scene we're taking down an entire bridge using C4, and the resulting breakdown involves heavy CPU side calculations for both consoles. Essentially it cues a drop to the mid-20s on both, and given PS4 and Xbox One share the same Jaguar derived CPU design, it makes sense the pattern of the drops is similar. So on balance, it's a slightly disappointing turnout, but if you're determined to buy it on console, PS4 looks like the better pick, with its native 1080p output and a more stable frame rate. For a game that puts this chaotic, all guns blazing style of gameplay front and center, the performance level is sadly not there to match it. And since we're only scratching the surface of what the engine might be pushed to later on, we'll be reporting back with a more intensive stress test of the game on each. A few other points bear mention though. On top of frame rate drops, PS4 and Xbox One also use an adaptive Vsync, meaning we get tearing on each to the top 20% of the screen. These frames are only partially completed before being rendered out, causing that slight tearing artifact you might see up top. We've marked these out on our graph with vertical lines, since it's quite often tough to catch these in play by eye. It's rarely a distraction, but the idea of adaptive Vsync is it gives the player some degree of response back from the screen, provided most of the frame is ready to render. Another point worth mentioning before we wrap up, though PS4 is the better performer overall, it's the only console of the two to show minor frame pacing issues. This means Just Cause 3's frame time can jump above the 33.3 millisecond line on Sony's console, an issue we don't see on Xbox One. It's rare to find, and curiously, Avalanche's engine tends to produce these extra unique frames just as the game is about to tear. Anyway, that's it for our initial analysis of Just Cause 3. We'll be back with a more detailed breakdown of the game's visual comparisons, and also look at whether a budget PC can handle the game on console settings. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like or subscribe, and until next time, thanks for watching.
Good morning, citizens of Medici. I'm apparently the new voice of the General's News Network, your only legal source of current events. Another successful Di Ravello week is in the books. Some minor reports of anti-government action, but we have true